Welcome back to Virteva's Let's Talk podcast. It's episode 31, and today is June 2nd, 2025. And on this month's episode, we're going to be diving into the new Copilot web app experience for basically all users out there in business and enterprise. All right, Holly, welcome back to the show. Excited to have you. I know we had some scheduling conflicts last time, so I kind of rode solo, but this is great because one of the big things that we wanted to talk about in the last show was the new Copilot experience. But unfortunately, I couldn't really demo it, and you wouldn't have been able to demo it either. But today, as we're recording this, so the episode's going live on June 2nd.
Yep.
We're recording it at the very end of May. I think, Holly, you and I have both been waiting for this new experience to go available.
Yep.
A lot of times Microsoft says the words generally available, and I think generally available means generally available for 5 people.
Yeah, it's slowly crawling its way across worldwide tenants, and I mean slowly. So you might even have people in a single organization where some people have it and some people don't yet see it.
Yeah, so we're both very excited because we both got access to it. I got access to it at least this morning. I think, Holly, you said one of your environments has it, but another one doesn't.
Yep.
So
I've
it all kind of
I've got little pieces of it.
Yeah, it all just kind of depends, I guess, where your tenant, whether it's a demo or it's a full-time tenant, is located regionally. So different folks are going to have it, but again, very excited. We're going to be able to go through this today and talk about all the new features, where things moved, and kind of demo some of the functionality. We're also going to be able to demo some of the functionality that was said would be there, but hasn't quite shown up, such as some of the search capabilities and preview capabilities. But that being said, I'm going to be kind of driving today, and Holly's going to end up kind of pointing me in the direction. We're going to be looking at features, but this is for our audio listeners. Again, it's going to be an exciting episode to take a look at on YouTube. For our YouTube watchers, first, thank you for everyone that subscribed and watched the last episode. That was a gangbusters episode for us. Is over 6,000 views, over 100 subscribers just off that episode. Let's keep the train moving forward with this one. So that said, let's get into the demo and try and keep this one short.
The first thing that a lot of people are going to notice, depending on the URL that you use to access your kind of web portal homepage. So it could be office.com, could be portal.office.com, it could be any, one of the many URLs that are going to dump you onto the landing page. Your new landing page is going to be the Microsoft 365 Copilot chat landing page. And that's actually going to be there whether you have a paid license for Copilot or you're just using the core service that comes with your enterprise account. So again, it's a business-based or enterprise-based account. So just a reminder, your end users have access to Copilot chat, regardless of the type. If they have an E3, E5, they're going to have access to this. And if you have a paid subscription for Copilot, you're going to have that grounding in your personal and company data. So again, just a level set. So if you're thinking, well, we don't have Copilot licenses, we are not going to see that, that would be an incorrect assumption. So I'm seeing it in a tenant that just has an E5 license, no Copilot licensing. I get this landing page. So the first thing that people are going to see is Copilot chat. Why is Microsoft making this change? They really want this under people's noses. So Copilot is there to help people with tasks, to help them get some writing coaching, whatever it is that people would do in your organization with a large language model, they can do with chat. Of course, if you have the paid subscription, you also have your work data that Copilot can be grounded in so that you can see some, information about people in your organization, stuff that's going on in your mailbox. You can ask questions about documents, things like that. But remember, with the non-paid version of Copilot, you just get the web access. And just beneath that, you're going to see any agents that are published in your environment. So along the left-hand side, if you have other agents that are available, those are going to be there. I know that the analyst piece and the researcher piece, those are things I think Scott mentioned. And feel free to chime in, Scott, but these are things that probably deserve almost their own little, show.
Yep.
But these are going to be available to you. And these are not in preview. Is that correct?
So they are not in preview. These are the new deep think models. So
Okay.
previously you had the ability to tell Copilot to think deeper, and it kind of used those O3 models that OpenAI has made
Yes.
available. These are brand new for the most part. They've been out, I think, about a month or two. And these are not your generalist type copilots. This is you're going to be
Right.
uploading information into them, and you're going to be doing research with them, or you're going to be doing kind of more deep dive, kind of like
Right.
business intelligence data analysis. Like Holly
Hmm.
mentioned, I have been wanting to really kind of sit down and dive into these two, but the experience I think with even with what we're showing today is it
Right.
varies, and I don't feel like it's quite ready to show off. But given that July is typically a slower month for
Yeah.
Microsoft as we get into the summer months and everyone's starting to take kind of like paid time off, is I think that that will probably be an
Yeah.
excellent opportunity. So stay tuned to the next show
Yes.
after this
Yes.
one, and we will be focusing on the analyst and researcher agents
Right.
in probably a full 30-45 minute show.
Yeah. And beneath these two kind of deeper thinking options is a visual creator. Now, this is probably one of my favorite little, updates to this. So if you go to, generate an image, um, you can, get some options for that. And here we'll see that
I think it's
designer gives
important
us.
too, while we wait for this image to
Yep.
load, is when we actually get down and start talking about create, how much
Yep.
longer will we see the visual creator agent
Exactly.
actually be here? Though it can technically be plugged into some of the Microsoft 365 enterprise for
Hmm.
apps for enterprise for business, if you have a Microsoft
Right.
365 Copilot license. But this create
Okay.
feature, when we get to it, that's going to be
Yeah.
available for everybody.
So I want you to think this way before we get to create. The designer, the visual creator, pretty good, right? It's pretty good. We got, here's an image of a gold trophy with colorful confetti raining down. Okay, we got that. But it didn't quite read my mind. I didn't want a photorealistic one. I maybe wanted um, I wanted more different things. I wanted the trophy to be a different shape. I wanted it to be more of an illustration than a photo. And the create option is going to really turn this on its ear. So, again, this is one of those things where I just like to highlight that with Visual Creator, that's what we've been using to generate images up until
Mhm.
this point. It's good. But sometimes as people are getting better writing prompts in chat, I think Visual Creator is one of those things where it still requires a lot more knowledge to write prompts for something visual than just like a text output.
I love it, Holly. Here's our thumbnail for the episode.
Um, and yeah, so we've kind of got we've got the standard, we've got chat, we've got visual creator, we have these
And one
new. Oh,
one
go
thing
ahead.
too before we move on from agents, I wanted to just kind of show off the new agent store because I talked about
Oh
that on the
yeah,
last
absolutely.
episode, but it wasn't available yet. So if you go to all agents here, there is a completely newly redesigned store that's available. Previously, it was just kind of using like the Teams and the Outlooks like
Yep.
app, which still exists down here at the bottom.
Yep.
But this new agent store focuses on agents. It shows the agents that you already have installed, including the ones that maybe your own team has built and shared across the
Yes.
organization. It also specifically pops out agents that have been created by Microsoft that maybe you've installed or haven't installed. And then
Yep.
it has a section for featured agents, AKA these guys probably paid to have their agent show up in this top like 9 block here. Um, Agents that are popular within your org. So these could be agents that other folks in your organization are already using today.
Yep.
And then more agents below that. And again, you can kind of click out and go deeper here, or you can do a search. So if I
Yep.
specifically wanted to find, let's say, a ServiceNow agent, we can see that ServiceNow has not yet created one, apparently. So,
No,
but
but just think of it this way. The more that people start to use um, Copilot, the
there
more
it is.
of these are going to be populated. So yeah, here we've got all sorts of data connections that you can make. So agents that can connect to other um, services that people could have a conversation with about the data
Yep.
that lives there in Copilot chat.
For sure. And one other thing kind of to include in this too is we're talking about agents is keep in mind that as agents are kind of in their infancy right now, like again, Copilot's only about a year and a half to 2 year
Yeah.
old product. Agents are, while yes, they've been around since Copilot Studio was introduced in July last year, the actual
Hmm.
term agents didn't start getting used until early
Yeah.
January,
Yeah.
February. Is a lot of these agents are, so if you have three different layers of agents. Is you have your basic RAG agent, which is that augmentation and retrieval agent that is
Yep.
basically just you ask it something, it gives you an answer. Then you have your
Hmm.
task-based agents that are more running off of a workflow when they're doing things based on what
Right.
you told them to do. And then there is the third level of agent, which is the more advanced version of it, which is these are the agents that are going to be doing RAG, task, and additional workflow. Even agent to agent
Yeah.
is going to be coming here relatively soon, which was announced at Build, where you can have one agent talk to another agent. They talk back and forth, and they perform more complex
Hmm.
tasks. That stuff's still in private preview right now, but it
Right.
will be coming probably by the time we hit Ignite in November this year.
I
All
know
right,
that'll be
Holly,
exciting.
I'll let you get back to it.
No, no, that's exciting. And I'm glad that you mentioned that. More people are getting into and asking questions about Copilot Studio. How do I build an agent? The good news is it's incredibly easy to build an agent. I think we did it on one of our previous shows. Um, but it's really easy to put these agents together. But of course, the knowledge that they run on, the instructions that you give your agent are going to make them better. So just the same way that writing a prompt is kind of an art and a science, I think building agents in Copilot Studio, really easy to build a basic agent, but it takes a little bit more, learning how to write the instructions, feed it knowledge, those sorts of things, to get one that performs really well in your organization. And another thing that I will say is just because you make an agent doesn't mean that people will use it. So you still have to promote its adoption within your organization. So like Scott has the HR assistant. Great agent, can answer some common questions from that people ask of HR, but we got to help people understand what it is, where to find it. I believe agents can also be embedded within SharePoint sites, things like that. So again, we can sort of try and strategically place it under their nose, but these are really cool. They deserve some communication and promotion in your organization if you are going to roll out custom agents. Because again, sometimes there are people that are going to poke and prod and explore in your environment. And then there's a lot of people that are only ever going to use something once they've been shown it. So if you do go through the effort of putting together a really useful agent in Copilot Studio, make sure you announce it. Make sure you share that it's available and where people can find it.
And that actually, that's a good call out as well. So I had built this HR agent probably about 3 or 4 months ago, and I've done some additional kind of refinements on it. But if
Yep.
you're not actually sharing that agent, what I have found recently is even people with the 365 Copilot license don't necessarily know that it's there. You either have to share it with them using the web link. So you
Yep.
can, if I go back to the agent here and I open up a new request, is I can come up here and oh, you know what? All right, so if I click on edit,
Yeah.
I can come up here and click the share button, and then I
Right.
can grab that. So I have it for anyone within my organization can use it. That link is required, though. It's not just going to show up unless you go out of your way to export export the agent through Copilot Studio, then
Mhm.
upload it into your team's app store and make it available for folks
Right.
within your organization. So
Right.
two ways to share it, but just keep that in mind is if you're building these is you actually have to tell people that they exist. And you can do
Yeah.
that through a direct link, an email, however you want to do it.
Yep.
But again, to use these as well, you're going to need a Microsoft 365 Copilot license, or you're going to have to be using message consumption packs or
Yep.
pay as you go pricing for your
Yep.
environment.
Yep. So don't, I mean, again, the ease in which you can create an agent sort of belies, how widely available its use can be extended
Mhm.
in your organization. So one of the things that you can do to get your feet wet in using agents is installing some of the ones available from Microsoft, like, the writing coach, things like that. Um, and it's, again, some of these things are really, really helpful that, you could, if you have a paid subscription, you could be using the writing coach agent to do specific writing work with that you want to do. So it's just sort of like, uh, hey, we know we have Copilot embedded in these organizations, but it's maybe not the coach that you want. So your writing coach could be um, a handy tool that you use alongside all of your other Copilot capabilities.
Mhm. Well said. All
Um,
right. So let's move on to conversations now, kind
yep.
of where they've
So
moved that.
conversations, again, you're maybe used to going into your Copilot history, yep, over on the other side. And now you're going to see your conversations captured as your history. You can still, if I think if you click on those three dots, you could still, um, you know,
Delete. Yep.
delete something, but your conversations will be there. And I don't know, Scott, if you want to click on all conversations, but again, you could see all of these different conversations that you've had. You can search them, and one of the things that I've done recently in training is talking about um, that you can have a conversation with Copilot that starts and ends within 10 minutes. Like, I started talking with Copilot, I got what I needed, I'm done, I may never return to this. But oftentimes, if you find yourself repeatedly going back and using the same prompt over and over again, if you're basically iterating on the same prompt, if you're asking for a monthly update, that's a conversation that you could come back to over and over again. I've even had one where I've had it help me write some report content, and I have it ask me questions one by one by one to help generate that content. Well, maybe that could take hours, that conversation. Maybe not hours, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I might have to pause and come back to it. So your conversation history, I don't always want people to think of it like web search history. These are running conversations potentially that you want to come back to, so you can come back and search for them.
It's important to note too that when you're looking at your conversations that each conversation you have with Copilot, Copilot has a memory where it remembers those certain topics. So if there's a certain conversation that you don't want Copilot to remember, you can come up here and delete
Yep.
it. So maybe you're working as a business analyst all day and you're looking at stuff in healthcare, but then you ask Copilot a question about like, what type of balloon should I get for a baby shower
Yeah.
that I'm going to this
Yeah.
weekend? Well, you don't necessarily want Copilot to remember that and then put it in the context with the other things you
Yep.
ask it. So you can delete those chats when you don't want them there. There's also going to be some additional functionality coming here sooner than later. It doesn't look like it's in there quite yet,
No.
that you'll be able to go to settings and you'll be able to train Copilot to know more
Very
about you.
exciting.
So
I'm
you'll be able to
super
tell it
excited about
what
that.
your job role is, what your primary focus is, how it should talk back with you, how it should find and reference data. These are features that are going to end up showing up under the settings. They're
Yep.
not quite there yet. I'm trying to see if maybe they're tucked under a different nook.
No.
So they may also end up showing up in this section here, but
Yeah.
again, we're in an early wave of adoption on this app. It's just starting to roll out, so
Yep.
not everything is there quite yet. very similar to that we kind of skip past search is
Yes.
they're changing the way that search works. So it's more of an AI driven search. So when you
Mhm.
type in a document that you're trying to find, you used to have to go to your Microsoft 365 search and intelligence settings and set up acronyms and locations and
Yes.
give it hyper specific links and brand guidelines to be able to find what you're looking for. You're not going to have to do that anymore. Copilot is adding AI search across your entire Microsoft 365 landscape to help you find what you're looking for. It's going to give you recommended documents based on things that you've
Yep.
previously looked at. And then one of the things that they talked about, and I talked about in the show, is the ability to kind of come in and just click on a document and it gives you a preview of what's in there without having to
Yep.
fully open the document. Unfortunately, that's not fully there quite yet,
Well, I
but
think
it is a
this,
feature that's going to be coming.
Scott, I think it's if you scroll up on that, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's that document. So this like uh brand guide, you could click
Mm-hmm.
create FAQ, but the IT service proposal, do you see the little button that says list key points? I think those are the
Yep.
things that allow you to do that AI summary.
Not quite the same. Not at least
Okay.
not from what they showcased in
Yeah.
their video.
Okay.
Is it looks like for the most part, this is just it's creating the prompt for you and pressing enter
Okay.
and running it through chat right now. What the AI search box is going to be is actually kind of a box that shows up on the screen that gives you a preview of
Okay.
the document, kind of similar to what you see in OneDrive right now when you click on a
Right.
document,
Right.
is it tells you what's inside ahead of
Okay.
time.
Okay. Yeah.
But
Um,
just wanted to make sure that we didn't brush too
no,
far
no,
past
and
search.
I think search, one of the things that I still find when I'm leading training on the use of Copilot, um, and really I would even say Microsoft 365 in general, is there's that conversation that you want to have with Copilot, but the search really feels like going to Copilot chat to search feels like really heavy. So I love that they're doing the search separate, but it's still
Mhm.
AI driven.
Oh, interesting too. We found a bug here. So this is the new place Pages lives,
Yep.
where you can interact with your canvas. When I'm trying to click on my pages that I've previously created, is it's showing them to me kind of here. But when I
Yep.
try to actually open the
Oh,
canvases, the
they
canvas is just
don't, they
auto
don't let
closing
you see
itself.
them.
So hey, live demos, that's what you see, especially in early product
Yep.
reveals. So let's move on to notebooks because notebooks
Yep.
is one of the newest area. And I don't know, Holly, if you want me to kind of talk through this on my side or if you want to
Sure.
kind of give an overview.
No,
Um, so
I'm take it away.
Sure. So Copilot notebooks existed last year, was part of the initial early Copilot releases, and it kind of lived under the same area as chat did, but it gave you the ability to ask longer questions and kind of keep your train of thought moving along.
Right.
I honestly really love the feature because you could ask a question and all of your answers showed up kind of at the bottom of the screen, but your prompt box didn't move. So you didn't have to ask a prompt and then watch it all go by
Yep.
and then answer again. You could kind of continue working with it. The new Copilot notebook experience is a little bit different, and we'll see what this looks like kind of in this live demo. Is I'm going to create a notebook and give it a name. And from here, what you do is you have the ability to kind of add a number of different files into this. So I'm just going to add one file for right now and then click create. But based on the instructions that are in the file, I don't know why Copilot needs to know my location, but so based on the references that it has, is this notebook will be able to interact with all of those different data sources,
Hmm.
and you can create and craft content out of it, as well as add instructions to the notebook on how you want Copilot to respond. And then
Right.
one of the neat things that you can do with this is you can create an audio overview, and this is going to be coming not only to this notebook area, but these audio overviews I saw look like they're going to be coming to things like Microsoft Word as well, where
Yep.
instead of just Copilot summarizing it in text and you having to read it, is it'll be able
Hmm.
to kind of read it back to you. So if I ask
Yeah.
Copilot, tell me about our proposal, and I say get an audio overview of it, Oh, I think I tripped it up by clicking too many things. We'll go back.
Well, one of the things that I also want to highlight that is rolling out this summer is for enterprise accounts, the ability to use your voice to interact with Copilot. It was there for a little while, then kind of went away. It's available on the free, like free, not non-enterprise accounts. Um, and I really love it. The older I get, the more voice to text I sort of do. And for people that would prefer to have an audio conversation with Copilot, you could do that. Um,
Mhm.
I think it's good for kind of quick back and forth. You wouldn't want Copilot to read, a giant novel to you. Not necessarily. Again, notebooks aside, but I really love that ability to talk to Copilot, especially from a mobile perspective, is going to come in really handy.
So what this is doing right now is, unfortunately, we can't hear it because the audio is not coming through.
Yep.
But I'll kind of feed this in,
Okay.
and we're actually hearing a short podcast created off of this document. It's two different people talking. And I'll pause here, and then we'll insert this in so you can kind of
Okay.
hear it.
Hey, welcome everybody to today's overview. We're diving into a fascinating look at IT advisory for a new cannabis dispensary. Really interesting stuff.
Hi there, pleased to be here. It's great to explore how strategic IT planning can really shape business success.
So, based on the project proposal for IT advisory for greenhouse development by Virteva, the document lays out a plan to support a dispensary opening in October 2025.
All right, so we're back again. I'll feed this in
Yep.
for our audio listeners to actually be able to hear. But yeah, it was doing an audio playback version of that document. Two different people talking back and forth. You can delete it after you're done with it if you
Right.
don't want it. I'm actually kind of curious, and I'm going to figure this out after the podcast is
Okay.
over. Is if this saved to my OneDrive or if
Okay.
it's just a temporary file that goes away. But yeah, just something interesting and new that kind of goes in there. And again, it kind of saves
Right.
all your chat history. So
Yep.
one of my recommendations on a way to use notebooks is kind of, Holly, how you were mentioning, like you can go back and you can look at your previous chat. So if
Yep.
you're working on a project that you're going to
Exactly.
have a series of different prompts and questions, come in here, create a project notebook, and then upload the files that you want that are relevant to it, and then go in
Right.
here and ask questions and prompts, and it will keep everything in one area for you to make it
Hmm.
easier to interact with in the future.
Yeah, and the whole notion of being able to get caught up. So one of the things that I think about is people that need to get up to speed pretty quickly, but maybe feel overwhelmed by how much content there is. Your notebook can reference all that content, but then you can create those audio summaries and things like that to, hopefully kind of get up to speed, um, and be able to ask questions of all of
Mhm.
that reference content versus having to sit down with a stack of papers and try and make sense of it all yourself, like reading it all. You can ask
I'd be
key
interested in
questions
how
and
long those notebooks can also go, because if
yeah.
so, Holly, if you and I are both on vacation in the same month, can we just give Copilot a whole bunch of ideas and just have it spit out a 20-minute podcast
Yep.
for it? That would be very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where I think notebooks can be incredibly helpful. I know for me, I have a short attention span. If I have a stack of things that I need to know to get caught up on a project, especially, with training, I tend to do technical handoffs, right? So if we're doing a project, I let all the technical ducks be in a row, and then I meet with engineers and say, okay, what's happening? When is it happening? Who's it affecting?
Yep.
I could potentially just reference any of their outputs, content, uh, transcripts, whatever it is. And I could just be asking those questions of that content.
So, Holly, I think we have one last thing to show off for the show
Yes.
this week, and this is the create option
I'm so excited about
in
this.
Copilot. And I think that I have talked quite a bit about my love for designer.microsoft.com in previous shows. It has really helped me kind of create different images and
Yep.
graphics for the different Copilot presentations and
Right.
PowerPoints that I do. But unfortunately, it's always kind of only existed in the freemium verse where you
Yep.
need to use a personal Microsoft account for it. Now we're seeing more of this functionality kind of fold into a full web
Right.
page within the Copilot app. So I'll let
Right.
you kind of take this one since I took
Yeah.
notebooks, Holly.
Again, I'm so excited for this because just when you think you are really good at writing just text prompts to have a conversation with Copilot chat, making a visual prompt to get a visualization, to get a graphic, that's a whole nother vocabulary that you need. It's a different art and a different science. So one of the things I absolutely love is that you can describe what you want, pick the style, pick that color scheme, pick a size, and create. So it basically gives you like a fill in the blank prompt. So for our trophy, right? So if we said we want to make our trophy, right? And okay, we can leave it as square, whichever you can do. And then we want, let's change that and do we want our trophy.
What do we want it to look like, Holly?
We want colorful confetti falling. And then let's pick a style. And in this case, I want it to be, if you scroll down, there's that risograph with the little kitty. We could do that. And then our brand. So this is where you could create a brand kit. So if you're like, I'm tired of people making these like jankety images that don't fit in our style. So we could do that. And so you could create, that kind of brand kit, which is helpful.
Yep. Oh, do we break the demo again, Holly?
We maybe
there we
did,
go.
but again,
All right.
you
Well,
can
we'll
add
come
your
back to
logos,
this.
your
Yeah. For
fonts, your
right now, we'll
colors.
just go back
You
and
can
do
basically you can try and bring image creation in line with your brand, color, voice, whatever it might be. And so now we get this whole ability to get an image that's sort of generated for us based on what we're looking for. And then we can add and edit that as well. So it's still crunching the numbers here.
Yeah, and this is one of the interesting parts of Copilot and image generation, just using AI as well, is it used to kind of do the image creation in blocks. So like the first like 10%,
Yep.
20%, 30%.
Yep.
Now what it's doing is it's kind of going line by line
Yep.
across the image and creating it.
Yep.
So it does take a little bit of time when you're creating these. But you do have the ability to kind of continue to, like Holly mentioned, you have the ability to continue to iterate on that image once you've created it through editing. You also have the ability to kind of mark it up, add visuals. Everything is done in a layered approach as well. So if you're familiar with using like online or more professional like
Adobe
photo editing tools like Photoshop,
Illustrator and stuff,
you'll have the ability to layer your images so you can put text on top of your original image without having everything flattened and having to start over if you didn't like specifically what you were working on. So you can add a background layer.
Because we all know that whenever AI tries to generate text, it's sort of like, I don't know what that is. It gets a little wonky. So here, can you pull that one under? I think when you specifically said background layer, it sort of.
Yeah, so it looks like I have to do something with it first. So let's see. Go to mark up, maybe.
Yeah, so you could, you could add some little markup. And again, it's just one of those things where I feel like people are going to get better outputs using this method. So I always think like you do not have to know much about image generation. You need to fill in the blank. What do you want? What kind of style do you want it in? What size does the image need to be? And I feel like people are going to get closer to what they're actually envisioning, and less of this kind of what I would just call is sort of like Copilot's first whack at it. Sometimes it's got to pick what style. And you might be like, that's not what I wanted at all. But, it's hard to describe sometimes, or people will, like I said, you need a whole different vocabulary for image generation.
Yep. So I'm telling it to add a Copilot icon here. We're going to see what it actually does.
Okay.
We'll speed this up in the overview. So it looks like it's adding the image that I asked it to, but
Yep.
that's not really a Copilot image. It just kind of decided what it was going to be and
Yep.
made it. It looks kind of like a combination of like a smiley face and a GitHub logo.
Yep.
It did put the words Copilot in there,
Yeah.
but not exactly what I was looking for. You can also add an image yourself.
Yep.
So if you
Yep.
had a transparent PNG of an image, you could add it, and then it would just add it to the document as is.
Right.
And then again, you can kind of continue to iterate. But you can see here too is that all my original layers are still here. And then you kind of have the transformation item here. Although that's interesting because when I went back, it took away the iterative change. Maybe it was because it hadn't finished making it. But
Yeah.
in any case, yeah.
I just think that this is going to help personally, I think it's going to help get rid of some of I just call it the slop, I described something and it made something, but it's like, well, it's not aligned with our brand. It's not the size I wanted it. It's not the style I wanted it. So I think that these can start looking a lot more professional and a lot more aligned with, what your company is expecting. I think, Copilot can be sort of like Copilot run amok in an organization where people have pro licenses plus PowerPoint. And,
Yep.
Every marketing department is like, no, we want to use our template. We want to use our colors. We want to use our voice. And you can now define that.
It's worth calling out too is a lot of places that we see as we're doing kind of trainings with folks on Copilot is the struggle point is where do I actually start in that writer's block hits when you just have an open prompt. And what Microsoft has been doing with kind of the prompt gallery, formerly known as Copilot Lab, is it gives you the ability to kind of come in here and have pre-built prompts for you. So you just have to fill in the blank. But if you're the type of person that wants to be more specific, you can still just click that edit button and start fresh. So just more user-friendly and quality of life improvements that we're seeing across the product as we kind of journey through year 2 here, and start to approach year 3 as we get closer to the end of the year.
Yeah, and I think it's worth saying, remember, this hasn't been in our hands that long, and look how much development is going towards improving it. And it would even be a whole nother show to go through all of the updates that are slated for not only this summer, but the coming year. And, we're not even at Ignite yet. So I'm just really excited to see where it's going. But, ultimately, don't be surprised when this experience shows up for your organization. If people are wondering, where'd my history go? What does create, all of those things, hopefully we've given a little bit of insight. So when that shows up on your doorstep, you know what to tell your end users.
Yeah, 100%. Holly, thanks again for being on the show this week. We will be back at the end of June, early July to kind of go through the agents for Analyst and Frontier and talk more about those in depthly. Maybe we'll even play a little bit more around in notebooks that kind of has a very similar feel to those agents. But yeah, looking forward to catching up with you next time.
All right, great.
I'll take us to the outro. Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks again for tuning in this week. If you want to learn more about the new Copilot experience, you can visit the links in the show notes. If you have any questions or need help with implementing or training around Microsoft 365, modern work, security, or of course, Copilot, Virteva is a leading IT managed service and security provider, and we can help you with all your IT needs. You can email us at letstalk@virteva.com or visit our website at www.virteva.com. Thanks again for tuning in, and if you made it this far, please don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and have a great rest of your day. Take it easy, y'all.